Hello and welcome back to Rage Gaming and more Monster Wilds. Today we're back to talk builds for a longsword thanks to this little update in Title Update 2 with Arch-Tempered Uth Duna, introducing her gamma set, and with that some pants in particular that have great potential. As it turns out, the Arch-Tempered set bonus is indeed that guts tenacity concept, giving you 5% bonus raw on the base raw of your weapon until you die, so it dodges a death and then you get bonus defense and element resistance instead. So you can use some of the Ray gamma set right now or some of the Uth Duna gamma set or mix and match to achieve that set bonus. With the pants being particularly good though, 3 levels of quick sheath, decoration slots, 1 level of agitator, they're definitely relevant for longsword at the very least. And so we've got a little set update for you and compare to the max DPS set of Title Update 2. But as always, credit to Josh for actually making these sets and coming to these conclusions, discussing it all with me, the person that actually plays longsword, but he's the one that's done the math to back up these decisions and conclusions. So full credit to him as usual. With that said though, let's get into it. What weapons should you be using in the current meta of the game? Well, it's the same as it's been for a bit, but I'll just remind you now. Ideally, you want to match the element that the monster's weak to. So obviously in the case of Arch-Tempered Uth Duna, the biggest weakness there is thunder. So logically what you'll do is you'll run a longsword with thunder or whatever element the monster's weak to, but not actually commit to it. So as you can see, we're still doing the usual attack infusions across the board and reinforcement bonuses with the 1 sharpness. This gets us to 225 base raw, you got 5% from the base affinity, and then that nice hefty chunk of element, even though we've not committed to it in any way. If you don't want to craft 5 different perfect Artian weapons though, you can still do the old thing, which is just raw in status, so that's paralysis or blast, whatever you prefer. I like the DPS window of paralysis, and then you don't have to think about it, which is completely fine. But again, it's the same boosts and bonuses as before. On the topic of offensive decorations then, it's still going to be 5 levels of crit boost total, so that's going to take up 2 of your 3 slots, and then razor sharp and 1 level of handicraft will be ideal to help maintain sharpness. 3 levels of razor sharp will do the job though, that bonus level handicraft is just a bonus on top. And this works out better than dropping any of the crit boost for say element attack or anything like that, so we do it either way. Right, as I said, there's going to be 3 main sets we're going to look at. We have the updated version of Latent Power that's going to commit to that and also invest in the new Arch-Tempered Uth Duna legs. We have a comfy set that doesn't involve Latent Power for those of you not interested in the scaling DPS of that. And we'll be comparing that and highlighting the max DPS set of Title Update 2 that works in 2 gore piece. And while technically it has slightly more effective raw, it does require a lot more investment in Adrenaline Rush and playing around that. Okay, so let's start with the first set, the new Latent Power set. As you can see, we have 2 pieces of the Gamma set from Ray, the helmet and the gloves. We have 2 pieces of Legaicrus, both in beta for the chest and waist, and then we have the new Arch-Tempered Uth Duna legs. Obviously super good thanks to their incredible decoration slots, 3 levels of quick sheath which is great for just convenience, and a bonus level of agitator. From this you get Raydal's voltage to increase the duration of latent power. You get the 2-piece of Legaicrus, so we're getting some affinity from Azure Bolt as well as extra thunder damage. And we have 3 pieces of any gamma set, which means we get Guts Tenacity for the 5% boost to our base raw of our weapon. To make this all come together then we're going to need latent power, so we're using the power charm level 3 to actually get all 3 levels of latent power. And then corrupted mantle as usual. With these decorations we achieve this skill list. Full weakness exploit, 3 latent power, full counter strike max might quick sheath, 2 levels of bonus stamina surge and evade extender, 1 level of adrenaline rush, agitator and burst, and then importantly 4 levels of constitution, which we're getting from all of our different 1 slot decorations. This is going to be great for your stamina, convenience and helping you maintain maximum might better. That's important and I recommend it. But you could slot out a couple of these or all of these for any other 1 slot that you like, maybe Divine Blessing while you're learning difficult fights. Let's take a look at the math that helps us come to this conclusion on this being a great set. So we have 225 base raw as usual, we get that 5% bonus on that from the Guts Tenacity passive, the set bonus, bringing us to 236.25. We get more from Counter-Strike 3, Agitator 1 with an assumed 65% uptime, Burst 1 and Adrenaline 1, bringing us to 282.1. Multiply that by 32% thanks to white sharpness, and that brings us to 372.372. Then we have all our affinity, a reliable 93%. Thanks to weakness exploit, max might, the base of the Artian, 2 pieces of Legaicrus with 40% uptime assumed, and the one agitator with 65% uptime. On top of that, we get 20% from Latent Power 3 with an assumed 66% uptime thanks to the 2 pieces of Ray. So yeah, 93% assumed reliable affinity, and with 5 crit boost, we maximize that as much as possible. So normally a 40% damage bonus on those crits, but with a 93% affinity, it's more like 37.2. So we multiply that by our last number, and that brings us to roughly 511 effective roll. So why do we do this set if it's technically 1 effective roll less than the max DPS set? Well, it basically equates to the same, but then you're not having this intense reliance on maximizing adrenaline rush uptime, which of course means you need to be landing those Foresight slashes every 30 seconds or so, or maybe just a well-timed evade. Most of the time, your counters want to be an EI counter with a special sheath. It's just more effective, but weaving in a Foresight slash isn't that bad now and then, but the max DPS set requires 100% uptime, which is a lot more invasive on your normal gameplay. So you might much prefer this. However, if you're just looking for a comfy version of this, we've got that for you. So here's the comfy set and what we run with that. So we've once again got 2 pieces of the Ray Gamma set, the helmet and the gloves again. Once again, the same Legiacrus beta pieces for chest and waist. And lastly, again, the new Gamma for Arch Tempered Uth Duna for the legs. This time we're using the Challenger charm though to get those 2 levels of agitator and not worry about latent power at all. That's the purpose of this set. You get the cart protection from 3 Arch Tempered, you're not heavily relying on adrenaline rush uptime, and you're not worried about the scaling power of latent power, so the DPS is a lot more consistent whatever point of the fight you're at. So you may prefer this, but it's definitely going to be less effective raw if you're playing at your peak. Anyway, these are the decorations we use to achieve this skill list. Full weakness exploit, the 4 constitution, 3 agitator here, so more. Full counter strike, max might, quick sheath, the 2 bonus levels of stamina surge and evade extender. Then we got 1 adrenaline rush and 1 burst. Once again then, you can take out as many of these constitution 1 slots as you want to replace with any other 1 slot, maybe divine blessing or whatever you might prefer, but that constitution really helps stamina and that helps maintain maximum might. Let's take a look at the math to compare this set then. So again, we have 225 base raw on the weapon. We increase that by 5% thanks to Guts Tenacity, bringing us to 236.25 again. We increase on top of that from Counter-Strike 3, Agitator 3 with 65% uptime, Burst 1, Adrenaline 1, and that brings us to 287.25. Next, we multiply that by 32% thanks to White Sharpness, bringing us to 379.71. With this set, we have less assumed affinity thanks to the lack of latent power. So 76% affinity from Full Weakness Exploit, the maximum might. This time Agitator 3 with 65% assumed uptime, the Artian base, and the Legiacrus 2 set with 40% assumed uptime. Again, with 5 crit boost, we maximize that, but with 76% affinity, we get less value out of it, so it's more like a 30.4% damage increase overall. So we multiply that by a last number, and that brings us to 494 effective roll, which is still extremely good, and should be a good thing for you to consider if you really dislike the idea of latent power. So you may find this a lot more comfy. But let's now compare it to the max DPS set of Title Update 2, which has ever so slightly more effective roll. For this set then, as before, we have Legiacrus in beta and the Helm this time, and then also the waist in beta. Then we have the Gore 2-piece, both in beta for the chest and legs, and then the last piece is of course Seragios in beta for the gloves. This time we're using the counter-attack charm for 3 levels of adrenaline rush, and then using these decorations, we achieve this skill list. Full adrenaline rush, full weakness exploit, full counter strike, max might, antivirus, quick sheath. It's pretty amazing. Then you get 2 levels of evade window just to help maintain adrenaline rush, though mainly you'll counter. We only have 1 level of constitution here, which you'll feel, and a bit of flinch free. This gives us Gore 2-piece for the affinity there, Legiacrus 2-piece for the affinity there, and scale layering just as a fun bonus. Let's blast the math again just to compare. So our base Artian is 225 raw. We get more from Counter-Strike 3 and Adrenaline Rush 5, bring us to 280. Multiply that by the White Sharpness, that brings us 369.6. We have 96% reliable affinity, thanks to Maximum Might, Weakness Exploit, the base Artian, Antivirus of course, and the Legiacrus 2-piece with an assumed 40% uptime. Thanks to 5 crit boost, we maximize that as much as possible. With 96% affinity, it's more like a 38.4% damage increase. So we multiply that by our last number, and that brings us to 512 effective raw. Literally 1 more than the first set of today. But again, this requires you maintain perfect uptime of Adrenaline Rush. that encourages Foresight counters every 30 seconds or so, or maybe a well-timed roll. That goes against the meta that is EI counter spam most of the time. But you know, Foresight slashes do work well. You just have to think about it a lot, like as soon as it drops you need to get it back. And ultimately that gives you this extremely small DPS edge over set 1. You might prefer set 1 then because it's less involved and you have to think about adrenaline rush a lot less. But they're two very strong sets, you can't really go wrong with either. But yeah, I hope this little update to the builds was useful to you. Nice to see that the gamma set of Arch-Tempered Uth Duna actually had an impact somewhere. I did find the set a bit disappointing overall, you know, with all the peak performance and tool specialist, but it is neat that it actually works for gamma sets in general, the Guts Tenacity set bonus, which is only going to become more and more relevant as we have more access to it once we get Arch-Tempered new Udra and Jin dahaad. Either way, for now, I've been Hollow, you've been you. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.